But we want to start off with Twitter, because you really have to be careful what you post on social networking, because you don't know who's watching, who's reading, what they're going to make of it, how it'll be interpreted. And when you're in the public eye, it becomes even more doubly important to watch what you put on Facebook or Twitter. Michael John Tierney is a well-known Laois footballer. Michael John, you're very welcome to the programme.
Hi, Will. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Now, you made some reference at the weekend to being disillusioned. So what did you mean by that?
Well, the funny thing is, when the Sunday game reported on it that evening, I wasn't even watching it myself. I was out having dinner with my partner. But the funny thing is, I never referenced football in it whatsoever, so they just took it upon themselves to take it as that's what I meant. I could have meant anything by it. But it just, all it was I was travelling home, and I had my headphones in, I was listening to music, and normally that's what I do when I'm on a bus or whatever, and just flick through. I have an iPhone, so I just flick through the apps, and I was just on my Facebook and my Twitter. I just put it up because that's what was going on. There was nothing, there was never any malice in it, there was never anything against management or anything against, Laois or anything like that at all. It's just completely been blown out of proportion. It's
But
just,
in your mind's eye, who were you saying it to?
just myself, I presume you have a Twitter account, maybe. I think.
Well, I have a Facebook account, yeah.
Yeah, Facebook, and in that little slot where you put your updates, it says what's on your mind, and just sometimes I just put up whatever is actually going across my mind at that stage. It's never I'm not a real deep thinker or anything. There was never anything, there's no double meaning in it or anything like that. It's just funny this RT and the media in general is gone so sensationalist lately that's worth 3 minutes of national television time.
Well, Des Cahill follows you on Twitter, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's it. I only actually noticed that on the way up to the game. Again, just sitting on the bus that morning, I was just flicking through Facebook and Twitter, and I just noticed he was following me on it. That's just an example of how innocent it was. I never even thought that. Never thought anyone was going to see it. I never thought it'd appear anywhere. But again,
But I'm sure you've noticed yourself from looking at other people's tweets or their Facebook updates that people, for whatever reason, seem to let their guard down, that they give insights into their thoughts to a big audience that they wouldn't normally share with people unless they were very close to them.
Well, that's why you keep it vague, and that's why I kept it vague. It's not as if I've 20,000 followers on Twitter. I've a load of people that I was intending to see it. I had only, I think, not even 100 people followed my page on it, and most of them were friends of mine. So that's all my social networking is. Football.
Okay, so you're not one of these people who adds all and sundry just to make up the numbers.
No, that's the thing with Twitter. You can't add anyone. Twitter, it doesn't work like that. It's just
they have to follow you.
They follow you. There's no accepting or declining. It's just to see what you're saying. Really, is all. And I think it probably would have been more relevant if the Sunday game had to give those 3 minutes discussing the fact that Meath have been involved in two controversial goal-out incidents in Croke Park the last 2 years, more so than the fact that I was tweeting on my way home. So look, I put up plenty of Twitter messages before and after it, and there's nothing about them, and there won't be anything more about them. Seems to me just to be a slow news day.
Maybe, but can you understand, looking back now, why RTE or anybody else would join the dots, where you ended up on the day as an unused substitute and then you made reference to being disillusioned later on? It's easy to jump to a conclusion.
Oh yeah, completely. And I mean, don't get me wrong, when you do put it up there, people are going to see it. And a lot of my friends, posted comments back to me, and a lot of my friends text me, and the same as any player. Every player that plays football or plays any sport wants to be involved in it. And when you're not, you question why. And exactly, you'd be disillusioned as to why you weren't involved. You try and join the dots yourself as to why you weren't picked. What did you do wrong? And it's not a cut at anyone. It's not something you do, and definitely for me anyway, it wasn't something that I purposely wrote or put up looking for it, looking for this sort of attention off it. I mean, there's a lot more interesting things going on Twitter and Facebook than what I was saying, to be honest with you. And there's a lot more people tweeting, a lot of Gaelic footballers, club footballers, and even county footballers that say things a lot worse than that don't make it in. I think it's a bit pitiful that that's what they went with. But look,
well, maybe it depends on the profile of the person and the circumstances that go with it.
Yeah, that's true too, I suppose, but I wouldn't consider myself to be that high profile. I mean, all the Dublin footballers have Twitters, and some of them, I've seen some of their pages, and some of the other GA players that I follow on it have Twitters, and they say things that just don't get picked up. It's just to look at the draw. They picked up on it there won't be mention of it next week, and I just think it's funny that my private life, can manage to make the national television for 3 or 4 minutes. I put up a picture of my grandmother last night to see if I can get her into a couple of newspapers because of it. Like, that's literally how lighthearted I'm taking it.
Yeah,
I mean, anyone that knows
herein
me,
lies the problem with social networking. Where does your private life end and public life begin?
well, that's true, but I suppose the defence I'd have of myself is I'm not a professional sports player. Like, GA is a hobby for me. It's one I love, and I love playing it. And should people who aren't getting paid to do it, should their private lives be scrutinised in that sense? Maybe they should, because they're in the public limelight. But look,
if they were getting paid to do it, would you feel differently?
Oh yeah, if I was getting paid to do it, well then, that's a different ballgame altogether. I mean, the GA could have guidelines. I know soccer players can get fined for some things they put up on it if it's against the FA's code or whatever. But like, again, just back to the ridiculousness of it. Like, it's my private life. It's not, as I said, it's not as if I posted anything dramatic or anything. I didn't post anything bad about anyone. So,
how was it received back home, though? Did management, for instance, once they became aware of the tweet, take exception to it?
No, I haven't. I've heard nothing bad said from players or the guys that evening. A couple of them texted me, and I met up with a couple of them, and it was it's all a joke like this. They just see it in the same way I do. That it's funny that an amateur sports person, something that they write on the social networking site, which is for social networking and for friends and for making connections and keeping in touch with. Like, I've travelled around, keeping in touch with people that I've met on my travels. That can make it onto it. Again, as I said, what will they put up next week? Will the Sunday game have a picture of my granny on it next week saying this is what he's tweeting now? Like, it's a bit ridiculous. But look, that's what they get paid to do. They obviously
and a slow news day then is all it was.
That's all I seem to think it was.
Well, when you come back to joining the dots that you referred to earlier about why you weren't selected in the end yesterday, what did you come up with? What picture did it paint?
Well, I respect the management's decision 100% for not picking me, and you have to, don't get involved in a team sport if you're not going to take the rough with the smooth, and you're not going to take the days when you do get picked, as professionally, I suppose, as you can. And if there had, as I said, if Laois had won, if we had won on Sunday, which is the most important issue, which a lot of people, anyone that's been talking to me hasn't brought that up with me, which is the most important part. We didn't win. We were way off the pace, and I suppose maybe we were ahead of where we thought we were. But
what did you make of the level of support for the team?
Yeah, it was poor. It's just, I think it's across the board. The attendances in GA have dropped across the board, and maybe that's it. Maybe RTE are clutching at straws. They're the outlet for GA. Between them and TV3 now, they both have the coverage, shared, and maybe they're losing viewers to TV3 on it. Like, maybe that's why they're trying to go down this sensationalist route. Maybe they're trying to look like as if they're moving forward with technology and keeping up to date with Twitter and stuff like that. But find something that's relevant. Wait till I get a hair transplant and then stick it up. That's what we're talking about. That's the thing. That's how little I thought about it. That evening, I was thinking of putting up a tweet saying, just for you all to know, I actually got a hair transplant as well. #Wayne Rooney in it. But that's how stupid it is. I mean, wait till something serious happens and then talk about it,
And has the whole experience between not being selected and then having what you see as your private life blown out of proportion, does it make you wonder why you do all this, especially, as you said, because you don't get paid?
I do it because I love it, and I do it because of the pride that it brings me and the pride it brings my family, and I do it for days like Sunday, for days like that when you go up to Croke Park and it's an 80,000 stadium, 82,000, and the 30 players running around the square aren't getting paid to do it, but it still manages to draw that sort of, I know we didn't have it Sunday, but it was only 45, but still, 45,000 people just to watch something that was going on 100 miles down the road in, Port Laois or wherever else as well, in a club game. That's why you do it. You do it because you love doing it. Otherwise you wouldn't. And you do it because you have the support of the people around you. No, it definitely wouldn't make me question it anyway. Because even again, that's another side of it. And more of the sensational stuff that, media are running with nowadays. Like 3 or 4 papers today have it down that I dropped off the panel. I actually had phone calls and voicemails on my phone. I don't answer phone calls normally the day of the game because I know it's well-wishing and stuff, but I just like to keep to myself and do what I do, keep my routine.
Eliminate the distractions.
Yeah, but there was voicemails I had saying that Today FM were after saying that I'd dropped off the panel before the game. Like, so that's how, the rumour mill once it gets going, it spreads fairly quick. But again,
sometimes there's no smoke without fire. Was there a big disagreement or something that would have sent out the signal that you were?
No, that's what I mean by it being sensationalist. There was none of that. If there was, then you have something to go with. It's just people try and put their own answers to, their own questions, and that's what they come up with. Like, I have no problem with the management team. As I said, I respected their decision 100%, and I don't think they played well enough in the previous 2 games to warrant a start. But I just thought, as I said, disillusioned. The reason I put it up was because I was disillusioned as to how I could go from having a good league to not being in the first 5 subs. But that's the management's decision. If you don't respect that, don't get involved.
Okay, and from your point of view, you're going to be available to line out in the Laois colours for
100%. As long as they keep picking me for the panel anyway, I'll definitely line out for it.
Michael John Tierney, thanks for taking our call this morning.
No problem at all. We'll take it easy.